What's up, everybody? Welcome to podcast now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to give you guys my full review for Assassin's Creed Shadows. I have officially beaten the game. I want to talk about some of the stats and really just kind of go on a deep dive. This is probably going to be a little bit of like a rambling type video. It might be a little bit longer, so strap in and hey, let me know in the comments what you guys think. I know that, look, this is a polarizing game. It really is, and just the fact that I've beaten this game, I feel like it's polarizing to people. I've already gotten people that have said, you wasted your time even playing it. So the fact that I beat it just by itself already, I think, means something to some people. So I do want to thank Ubisoft, as always. I said this, obviously in the early impressions video. Thank you to them. They gave me the code. That's not going to change anything, as you all, people that have watched me or listened to me have very much, I think, know at this point. Me getting a code doesn't stop me from saying what I want on a specific game. So here's what I want to do. I want to talk about some of the main positives, some of the negatives, and some of the in-between. And this is a pretty complicated game, I feel like, to talk about because, as the title might suggest, and really the theme I want to get through to you all within the first, couple minutes, this is a highly addicting checklist type game. And it means exactly what you think it means. This is a game that you always, at least me, I'm always kind of on the brink of saying, do I want to quit it? Do I want to be done? Because there's nothing major that makes me want to keep going. But at the same time, there's some chemical in my brain, some chemical maybe injected into this game that makes me say, you know what, I'll give it another hour. I'll give it another day. I'll play it next week. I'll play it the week after. And here we are. I've played this game. I believe I clocked in at around 42 and a half hours. Now, that is not 100%ing it. I actually got closer than what I think people think that I did. I've shown in live streams. In fact, I think yesterday you can probably watch the live stream and see how far I made it. I beat the game, like officially, and I probably did around 65-70% of everything to do in the game. At one point, I was kind of going for 100% because just the way my brain works, I go around the world, I go through all the eagle points, I just, I kind of pick things up as I go. And almost naturally, I started to 100% it. I started to do everything there was to do. Now, that's, I think, when this game was the most turn off your brain, don't think about what you're doing whatsoever, put on literally anything you want, and play the game. Almost the game is being played in the background, not even a thing that you are playing in the background. That's what it felt like for a good amount of this game. And again, coming back to the main theme, you could say that's bad. I don't think that's the making of a fantastic game, because I don't think this is a fantastic game. But there's something highly and strangely addicting about a game like this. Because every time I thought, you know what, there's nothing that's truly motivating me, then I thought about it and said, yeah, I'll play it tomorrow night, just like I'm playing it tonight. That's the theme. That's what I was doing over and over again with this game. So, okay, let's talk about like a very main positive, and I would say it's the world. Now, the world visually, I think this game has elements of I want to say reactive. Now, the game's world is not really reactive, but it's got moments or elements to it. I don't want to give it away because I actually think it was a cool part. There was one moment in this game where I was doing a side activity, and maybe, if you guys played or maybe you saw it, you would wink, wink, nod, nod, like you might know what I'm talking about. I was doing something completely random, like a side thing. It was just going to give me like a mastery point or whatever, and something organically happened as I was doing it. Like it led into something else, and I stopped and I said, that was freaking cool. That is something that I wish this game did more of, and I don't really want to give it away, but it's actually something really cool that I wish the game did more of. So the world is beautiful. The world looks freaking amazing. The seasonal changes. It is a really nice looking game. And I've said it before. I've said in other videos. If you can do this with Black Flag's remake, if you can make the water, okay, and just how the high seas look, and you can do that in this engine and in 2025, 2026, oh my dear God, like brace yourself, right? This game looks unreal. This game looks really, really good. Some of the most cinematic cutscenes. I mean, there are moments, really in like the main quest line, but even some side stuff, cutscenes, right? Like fully fledged type stuff, that the game just looks unreal. So I really want to praise that, because if there's anything in this game that is like elite, you say, okay, well, what is like really good about this game? This is the one thing that I would feel very confident. There's not really that many games where you're in this massive open world. You can see, like, the draw distance of this game is insane, right? You can see a tower thousands of feet in front of you, right? It's just kind of off in the distance, and it looks good. But, like, there's a really interesting and cool feeling about riding on a horse or even just running, and it's sunny. and the sky turns cloudy, and then it all of a sudden starts freaking raining, and you see all the bushes and the trees start to like be hit by the wind organically. Again, like it's sunny and all of a sudden it's not. There's something very cool and very organic about that I think deserves a lot of praise, okay? Now, to be honest with you, in terms of elite, in terms of like this is something that, might even win an award one day, that is it. The combat is definitely serviceable. The combat is something that is highly repetitive. Once you play it for a couple hours, you really have seen a lot of it. And I will say, okay, the difference between playing the combat and like the abilities that you unlock at the end of the game versus the beginning, yes, there is some complexity there, but I'm talking about the minute-to-minute gameplay. When you're locked onto an enemy, you're blocking, you're parrying, you're dodging, you're striking. It's very samey, it's got that feel, but again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. The combat, I think, is incredibly serviceable, and I gotta say, again, I said this in the live stream, and I'll tell you right now, in terms of like the length I played this game, this is probably my most played Assassin's Creed game ever. I love like 2, Brotherhood Revelations. That's kind of my golden era. But I don't think I played any of those games 45-ish hours. You know what I mean? Maybe 20, maybe 25. I played Assassin's Creed Origins, and that was a longer game. But I don't think I put 45 hours into Origins. So, again, credit where credit's due. I spent more time in this world than most likely any Assassin's Creed game I've ever played. Now, time, like quantity, does not equal quality. Always important. I want to kind of always nail both sides, of any opinion that I have. But no, back to the combat. I just kind of want to throw all that in there just to kind of make the point. Because look, you're going to be doing the combat a lot in this game, right? And again, it's incredibly serviceable. It's a thing that at the same time it gets old, it also doesn't, if that makes sense. Like, it's got that whatever chemical in your brain that just says, okay, I'll fight one more boss, I'll do one more encounter, I'll do one more castle. There is a lot of it that is samey in a negative way. I mentioned this in my impressions, and this sadly did not change, okay? I am very sorry to report. One thing I said early on is, okay, every region, it's these very, I don't even want to call them fetch quests. There are, I think, what would be considered fetch quests in this game, by the way, but everything repeats. So you have an open area, you're of course going to be doing the same thing, but one of the interesting things that they do and then they don't ever change is there's castles, right? So there's a lot, and I want to say there's like 20 plus in this game. Almost every, I want to say almost because maybe there's like 2 that's not. Every single castle except for 2 is the exact same build. It's always like square, and then it's always, you kind of have like an outside region, then you have water with like a drawbridge, you go in, then there's another region, and then there's a tower inside it, and you're trying to kill elite enemies, you're trying to loot crates and stuff. It's the exact same thing, no joke, 20 plus times. So that's the thing with this game, is like the combat is serviceable. There's almost this chemical hit that you get every time you do an assassination. Do you know how many freaking rings are in this game? You go to the menu, right, and you look at how many targets you can take out. There's like a freaking 100. There's something addicting, though, to hunting them down, finding their location. Some of it's organic, some of it the game kind of feeds you, and then you kind of continue it, right? You might find the first person's location on a ring, right, of like members you have to kill. You might know the first person. You go after them. You might get a letter that then starts to unlock the rest of them. It's the same thing. You're always going to be going into location. You're always going to be trying, or at least I try, stealth assassinate, because I don't always want to fight. So I play as Naue, sneak in, slit their throat, and then leave. Do that 150 times. I mean, it's ridiculous, actually, when you think about it. It's ridiculous how often and how much it makes you do it. But there's something strangely addicting about it. Maybe it's, hey, you're seeing things always pop. Maybe it's that kind of like chemical type thing where, hey, we're always rewarding you, right? You're always getting the next level equipment. You're always getting a new weapon. You're always getting something. Maybe it's that. Maybe it also is just kind of the joy of like stealth assassinating people, and I'm willing to do it 100 times, right? And I mean, I did. You can look at the menu. I can show it to you, whatever. I did a lot of that stuff. I didn't do all of it, but I did the main stuff, and then I did a large quantity of the side stuff as well. But there's something to that. There's something to, and I think I said this in the live stream, there's something to the base mechanics in this game. Okay, and when I say base, I don't mean like the base building that is in this game. That is a legitimate thing. I put next to 0 time into that. I'm not going to speak on it. I don't really care about it, but that's in this game. Look, this game is kind of as big as you want it to be, right? You can rush through it. It's probably not ideal because some of the enemies kind of scale, and some of them, I got a quest for like a level 44 bounty when I was like in my low 30s. So it's like there's no way you would be able to handle it, right? There's this kind of organic take out this group of enemies, they'll help you level up to then take out this next group of enemies. But generally, again, the system, like what you're trying to do in this game is explore, unlock regions, unlock locations, and then use those locations to find enemies. And to be honest, okay, for all of the rambling I've done in this video so far, and I got more for you, but truthfully, okay, that's the core of this game. There is the game, there's the fighting, right? There's the story. We're going to, get a little bit into that stuff as this video goes. But the base thing is here's an open world that's honestly probably too big, okay? Even though it's smaller compared to some of the other stuff that they've done. This is an open world that probably overstays its welcome, probably is a bit too big. Go out and just start unlocking those question marks, right? You see those 500 question marks? Start giving them names, because when you walk up to them, they'll unlock, right? Okay, well, why do you do that? Well, you get XP, but more than that is you get the location. So then when you start to say, okay, well, I'm just going to go after targets, your map is full. Now your map has 1,000 locations. So when the character says, okay, it's south of this place, it's northeast of this place, you have those locations. See, if you rush the game, you don't have the, and I mean, you probably could. It's just, and you'd have to Google it. I'm sure you could actually kind of speed run it that way. But like, if you're going to do it organically, say you don't use help, right? You're not going to know those locations. And I bring this up. Why do I bring this up? It's such a big part of the game. In fact, it's the core of the freaking game. The entire game revolves around finding the world, filling in the missing pieces of the map. I think that's a Pirates reference for you. Doing that, and then using those locations to find the characters that you're supposed to take out. And so much of that is samey. So much of that is like I mentioned, hopefully in the title, if I titled it right, it feels like a checklist. This entire game feels like a giant checklist. And here's the thing. There's really, to some people, there's nothing wrong with that. To me, it's a game that I can enjoy to a certain degree, but I can never go all the way. But I also am not going to sit here and tell you, like, hopefully this is coming through. I don't hate this game. I don't dislike this game. I don't think this is a bad game. I think this is a very fine game. I would never give it, like, massive awards. Maybe the world, maybe, like, how beautiful it looks, but, I'm not giving this best story, not giving it best combat. Everything is fine. Everything, and I think I said that in my 10-hour impressions video. Everything is serviceable. Everything is there. Everything works, and you kind of know what you're getting into. But nothing is bad. When you're assassinating targets, there is a certain feel that comes along with that you kind of feel good, and maybe that makes me kind of a crazy person. Don't report me, but there's a feel to that, okay? And the game does, to its credit, it nails that stuff, but it never goes above and beyond. There's, I think, chances for this game to be a little bit more reactionary. I know I've seen articles of, like, the world kind of feels hollow, and at times that's true. Well, actually, I would say probably generally. Like, there's always stuff going on. There's all of these different locations. Again, I think like that draw distance, just seeing things so far away kind of makes the world feel alive because nothing feels invisible. It's kind of right there, right? You can see things thousands of feet away. Therefore, that kind of exists, right? The world kind of exists. But at the same time, yeah, you go into these locations and there's nothing really real about them. There's nothing living, in these worlds. And that, I think, especially when you're going through and you're just taking out like 100 targets, right? Like, they have an opportunity to do almost like a Middle-earth Nemesis system thing. Look, I mean, that's a trademark. That's a whole nother story. But, there's opportunity, I think, to make things feel more alive that's just not there. It literally is checklist, find locations, find targets, complete the targets, whether you spare them or kill them, and then move on with your life. That's the game. And there's a certain feeling that comes along with that's fine. You can sit there and play it for 40, 50, 60 hours, and I think feel very little. And that might not be a good thing, but you can do it and feel very little and kind of enjoy your time doing it. And that's actually what I would say I felt. Couple moments of cool. And now I haven't mentioned really, and let's get into it because this kind of ties in. Well, what about the story and what about the characters? Well, I gotta say, as I was getting into this game, I started to, look around online. I didn't spoil. I didn't see any spoilers. So the big moments were still big. But I saw a lot of people voicing that, amongst all this controversy, Yusuke, ironically, is the better part of this game. And I saw that. And I thought, okay, well, I'm still going to go in with an open mind. In fact, and I'll tell you this, even to this day, right now, clocking in 42 and a half hours, I probably played, 30 plus hours as Naoe. Okay, it was probably 75-25. But I think I actually agree. Here's the one thing. Yusuke's story is 1,000 times better than Naoe. It's not even close. Now, whether they did that purposely or they just like kind of organically wrote one character that's not very good and one character that... Now, here's the thing. I maybe should take that back. Naoe is not a terrible character. She's a character you've seen before. Her story is based on things that you've already experienced in other games. Her journey, like her life journey and what's happened to her. And I think it's actually like the more boring of the two. Yusuke legitimately has a good story. Like I legitimately believe that he just is a better written character. He's got cooler, when I say set pieces, I guess maybe I mean like just in the grand scheme of things, but also kind of like emotional story moments. He literally has set pieces that Naoe just kind of lacks. And I mean, Naoe has them, but they're not as impactful because I think they're more like kind of one-dimensional. I'll give you this because I don't want to spoil certain things, right? Like I'm trying to do this spoiler-free. Naoe, whenever she takes out people, okay, and like the main story generally is very leaning towards her. And so when I'm saying that Yusuke is a better story, I'm actually talking about like his quest, his side quest, his main quest, whatever you want to call it. That's very good. And to be honest with you, Naoe's main quest is actually pretty good too. I guess I'm talking about those main characters that you're trying to kill, right? Which is the main kind of arc of the entire game. Every time you do it, I'll just give you this in terms of slight spoiler, but not really. Naoe always asks about a box. Now, I won't say the significance. I won't say, what's going on there. But every time you kill these characters, Naoe comes in completely unhinged, and she's always asking, like, where's the box? Where's the box? And it's just... it almost becomes funny at a point because she just says it every time, and there's not really depth behind it. And I think, again, in terms of like the deeper thing that I don't really want to get into the story, but it's mostly like a revenge quest. Like Naoe's definitely going a little bit for revenge and also kind of discovery, I guess, to kind of keep it very, broad. And those things kind of just get repetitive. Those things kind of, again, some of that you've seen before and some of it just doesn't hit. So, if you're wondering, truthfully, if you're wondering how that goes, the story is not bad. I think the story's fine. Again, there's the word again. I'm not even saying it purposely at this point. The story is fine. It's just, Naoe's definitely lacks and Yusuke's actually doesn't lack, but, the game wants you to play, I think, as Naoe. Both of them are fun to play. I think Naoe, and I mentioned this in the impressions, the way she moves, the parkouring, the movements, her fighting style too, it's really good. Like, I do enjoy playing as her. When you play as Yusuke, it is kind of a breath of fresh air, but that's not to diminish Naoe because I think she's a fun character to play. But Yusuke also is very fun. Like, there's something very fun about being a tank in this universe. Now, it doesn't work all the time. When I'm talking about, here's the thing. Here's where I think this game kind of, gets in its own way. Most of the game is exactly as I've said 15 times, so I won't say it again. Who's better to do that with is Naoe. In fact, you cannot do the discovery portion of the game, which is 75% of the game. You cannot do it as Yusuke because, mainly, his parkouring, his movement is purposefully, right? He's the tank. He busts through doors. He fights. That's all he does. He is not there to do eagle points. He is not there to traverse the landscape. Absolutely not. And the issue I think that the game has is they are fun, and Naoe doesn't really get old. I guess I'm not trying to say that either, so don't misinterpret this. Like, again, it doesn't really get old in that way. Like, there is some fun there. But Yusuke, you just can't really use for that stuff. So, you kind of want to balance these characters. And for most of the game, you're scouting. You're discovering, as I said. You can only really discover with Naoe. Now, when you do the assassinations, you could pick either. I still pick Naoe, though, because, again, the samey kind of vibe. The locations all kind of feel similar. When you're going in, you're taking out a target. If you're going in as Yusuke, you're going to have to fight between like 10 to 30 people, okay? And I just don't want to do that 100 times. I killed a lot of, I assassinated a lot of targets, a lot of bad people, we'll say that for YouTube purposes, right? But like, I don't always want to fight 30 people per location to take out the one person, right? So, well, what do? Well, you have to go stealth. And then who can do stealth? Only Naoe. Like, I dare you to play this game and try to do stealth as Yusuke and get through a freaking castle of 30 guards to kill the main target that's kind of at the center of it. You're never going to do it, right? You're going to have to be able to, and you're going to do it rightfully as Yusuke would. You'd fight through it. But, like, I don't want to do that 100 times. So you play as Naoe. So hopefully what I'm trying to describe, is that's kind of the imbalance I think this game has, where it leans in everything it does. it leans Naoe. And then ironically enough, maybe not gameplay, I think honestly they're pretty equal, but in terms of like the story and like the better character, ironically, it's Yusuke. There's not much else, honestly. I know, again, this was like a rambling type thing. Honestly, this is kind of what I feel like I needed to do with this game, is just kind of get out there and vent and kind of just throw everything that I'm thinking about this game out there towards you so you guys can take it for what it is. I guess the only other thing I would really say, but I mentioned it before in the last video, the voice work. I mean, I switched to Japanese probably 3, 4, 5 hours in. I'm very glad I did. I think the English voice acting is pretty bad, and I think I would definitively say I think it's bad. And the Japanese one I actually would say is quite good. Again, like, you can only do so much when like it's the story that has to kind of carry, but I think the actors do a pretty darn good job. There's definitely more emotion, there's definitely more feel with Japanese. So I mean, I know there's some people hell-bent, like they just don't play games in Japanese. I used to be like that until I played Yakuza, and then I completely changed my mentality. I can only play Yakuza in Japanese. I would never in 1,000 years play those games in English. And honestly, a game like this, I don't think it's, I think the better experience is to not play Shadows in English. That's just my personal opinion, but I know some people are kind of hell-bent against, one or the other, which is cool. I can respect that, but that's kind of it. I'm trying to, like, music, nothing really stands out. I mean, that's kind of the thing. Nothing stands out, but nothing is really bad, except for maybe the voice acting. This is a very serviceable 40-hour turn off your brain. I mean, and look, here's the thing. People have put in more time. I've seen comments, people in my own community, and hopefully you don't hate me at this point, but I've seen people say they've put in hundreds of hours. I've seen people platinum it. I've seen people say it's their game of the year. I mean, I think there's a wide range with a game like this, because I really think it just comes to like the kind of person you are. And it's not because, comments tend to be like pretty aggressive around here. But, look, some people like these type of games and some people like them more than others. That's probably what I would say. I think a lot of people actually like games like this, to be honest with you. But there's a range. Like, there's these type of games, the idea of just jumping into this world and being able to go in for 70 hours, that means something to people. Now, to me, to my personal gaming opinion, somebody who does this as much as I can for a living, and I've always said this, it's always quality versus quantity. Like that, I've said that for years, and now it's becoming more I'm not saying I pioneered it, okay? Relax there. But no, I've really honestly been saying that, though, for several years now, and I have seen more and more and more that people, agree with that sentiment, which is cool. I really believe in that. You gotta have, you can have 40 hours, and see, and this continues, these games always, I feel, make my point. This is 40 hours of content, but is it 40 hours of high quality content? It's 40 hours of content for sure, but what's the quality? I think the quality's fine. Like, it could be worse. This could be 40 hours of bad quality. I don't think it's bad. I mean, you could fight me all day long in the comments, whatever. I don't think this is a bad game whatsoever. I think this is a very competently made game, and I would probably say it's my favorite of the newer age. It's not my favorite, in general. It would probably be maybe middle of the pack, but, this is definitely, like, Origins on. This is the game I spent the most time in. This is the game I probably enjoyed, like legitimately enjoyed the most of all of the games since Origins. Origins I really liked, by the way, just not, I don't know, maybe it's biasness, like a recency biasness, but this is probably my favorite of this group. But, like, how far does that go? I can tell you, I was not really engaged. Like, do you know how much podcasts in 43 hours, okay? Do you know how many podcasts I listened to? I got through a lot by doing this because, and I don't think that really hurt. By the way, people are going to say, oh, you're not connected to it then. No, I was connected as much as I can be. The game's just not that good. You know what I mean? It gives you room to not care about it so much, so you can listen to music or listen to something, on the side. And that's what I was able to do. By the way, I want to say meaning, that's probably not the right word. There's something to that. Like, that's worth something to people, by the way, right? Like, playing that amount of a game and being able to enjoy it to a degree, but like not having to take it all that seriously. That means something to people, so not everybody, just certain people. So that's the type of game this is. I mean, this is one of the longer reviews I think I've ever done in my life, but I feel good. I feel like I said what I needed to say. Hopefully you guys understand that. That's really what I try to get through with all my reviews, but look, I'm not stupid. In fact, I think I'm very aware. I know what this game is to people online. I know the difference of opinions. I just hope that if you made it this far, I think you definitely could hear me out, and I appreciate that, but hopefully people just, kind of listen to what I'm saying. Don't take this too seriously either. Maybe clean the house while you were listening to this video. But hopefully you kind of get where I'm coming at and what I think of this game. You know, I don't do scores. That's not, I've never done that. I'm never going to do that. Is this game worth getting? I honestly think it is, and I think it's worth getting probably at a discount. And I think I would say that about a lot of Ubisoft games. And again, like, you can go aggressive on that. You can like make a narrative out of that. In this situation, I would say I think this game could be worth exploring. This game could be worth getting. I think it depends on the kind of person you are and what you're into. And then, it's all about the price. And the price, not to cop out here, but the price is different to everybody, right? A game like this, a game you can get legitimately 100 hours in, could be worth $100 to somebody. A game like this could be worth $10 on like a massive sale, right, to somebody else. That's why I don't love to go too deep into this part of it. I like to give you guys what I think of the game. I think I did that. And you take that and you say, okay, well, now I can make my own opinion on it, which is what I want. I want you guys to think for yourself, which I think many people here do. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.